It's a new year, but familiar themes are recurring for Cowboy football.
We have all of the OSU action from when the Cowboys took on Central Michigan this past weekend, and we also have news on what's been going on with the Orange half of Oklahoma.
All that and more coming up on the Poke Report. Welcome to the 2015 season premiere of the Poke Report. I'm Curtis Quillen.
And I'm Amelia Henderson. Labor Day represents the start for many sports. While most people are just enjoying the rest of their summer, it's not quite the same for most college athletes. From golf to football to soccer, over this past weekend, each sport traveled over 1,800 miles with many different results.
More on soccer and football a bit later. But first, we take a look at some other OSU fall sports. Cowboy Golf has had a strong start to their season, winning a tournament at the famous Pebble Beach Golf Links in California. OSU posted a team score of 5 under over 3 rounds to beat second place Georgia by 6 strokes. It is the 13th time since 1973 that the Cowboys have won a season opening event, but for Coach Alan Bratton, it's the first since taking the reins in 2013. Individually, sophomore Sam Stevens and freshman Nick Heinen tied for 4th at 1 under, but were only 1 stroke off the lead.
The win should most likely be very beneficial later on.
It probably will be. The Cowboys started the preseason ranked number 16, and we'll keep an eye on that ranking when they travel to the Illini Invitational next Friday.
Not to mention Jordan Nabrugge, who just came off from a very impressive summer where he competed in many professional tournaments as an amateur.
He'll be one to watch too. 2 other sports have openers this weekend. In his 4th year as tennis coach, Jay Udwadia has his NCAA qualifying squad at the Napa Invitational in the heart of wine country. Junior and lone American Nathan Roper leads the team as its most experienced player, along with sophomore Lucas Finzelberg and spring additions Jerence Mendoza and Tristan Moreau. Finally, the 4-time national champion men's cross country team begins their drive for number 5, along with their cowgirl counterparts at the Bluegrass Regional in Lexington, Kentucky. Look for those results to pour in later today.
The Cowgirls soccer team looks to improve after a rough start to the 2015 season. The Cowgirls opened up the season with a win against Mercer at home. Sophomore Holly Bremer scored first in the 37th minute with a pass from Marlo Zoller. 17 minutes later, freshman Haley Woodard took a cross into the box from Allie Stevenson to give the Cowgirls a 2-0 win. The Cowgirls outshot the Bears by a 26-3 margin. On August 28th, OSU hosted Bedlam rival Oklahoma in a non-conference game in front of a packed house. 18 seconds into the game, OU's Devin Barnett sent a pass to Kaylee Deo, who shot from 12 yards out, putting the Sooners up 1-0. The Cowgirls couldn't find the net as Sooner goalie Cassidy Stade had 7 saves. Although the Cowgirls came close to scoring and outshot OU 18-11, it just wasn't enough, and the Sooners won 2-0. Less than 48 hours later, on August 30th, the Cowgirls hit the field again, this time versus Georgia. After a tough Bedlam loss, OSU looked for a turnaround, and that's exactly what happened. OSU dominated the match, outshooting Georgia 18-8. Oklahoma State's first goal came right before the half when Bremer scored in the 44th minute and then again early in the second half, keeping the momentum for the Cowgirls' Courtney DK and Zoller to tack on 2 more in the 74th and 78th minute, giving the Cowgirls a 4-0 win. OSU's final 2 games of the week took place in Florida this past weekend. The Cowgirls lost in heartbreaking fashion against the number 5 Florida Gators. In the 3rd minute, OSU's Zoller scored the game's opening goal. The Gators quickly recovered, scoring 2 goals before the end of the half. In the second half, OSU's Michaela Ongaro was determined not to let the ball past her, recording 4 of her 7 saves in the second half. An interception by Woodard sparked a counterattack that let DK do what she does best, one-on-one against the goalie, lacing it top right, allowing the Cowgirls to push the game into overtime. The Cowgirls weren't able to capitalize in overtime, losing 3-2. To end the road trip, the Cowgirls faced 19th-ranked UCF. Stevenson put the Cowgirls up 1-0 with a pass from Zoller, but the Cowgirls weren't able to hold the lead, giving up 2 goals in the second half to let the game slip away. The Cowgirls are currently 8th in the Big 12 Conference standings and will open up conference play on September 25th at Baylor. The Cowgirls are 2-3 this season and hope to bounce back this weekend as they head west for a pair of games in Washington.
We're disappointed we didn't get the results on the weekend because we played really well. But, we feel like if we continue to play that hard and with that much energy, that the results will come. It's another big challenge, to go on the road and play Washington State out of the Pac-12. They're 4-0, so they're a really good team. And, Gonzaga's a big physical team, so it'll be challenging, but I think if we played our capability, we should be fine. We want to compete for the Big 12 championship. Right now we just want to win these 2 games, but after that, we'd like to compete for the Big 12, get to the NCAAs and make a run. That's our goal every year.
The Cowgirls are 2-3 this season and hope to bounce back this weekend as they head west for a pair of games in Washington, where they'll play Washington State and Gonzaga. They played Washington State last night and head to Spokane tomorrow for their match against Gonzaga. For the Poke Report, I'm Megan Bordeo.
Hopefully the West Coast proves more fruitful than the East. And Washington State presents a unique problem for the Cowgirls, and we have former OSU defender Bailey Burmaster to tell us about it.
Yeah, so Washington State plays this box midfield, which is very hard to defend. So Carmichael's 4-3-3, his 3 midfielders are going to have to match up with them, and one of their defensive backs are going to have to slide up and get that 4th person in the middle.
Okay, and what kind of formation does OSU have?
So they usually play a 4-3-3, but what might happen if they want to play more defensively, he likes to play a 5-3-2.
Okay, and would OSU ever consider changing their formation?
I guess so. It kind of is up to Carmichael, obviously, and whether the team they're playing. For example, they played Florida, who's very good offensively, but they wanted to make sure to not give them up an easy goal, so they drop back and have that 5 as a defense.
Oh, very nice. Does any players in particular stand out in these formations?
Definitely. You have your outside forwards and your outside backs who can work together to go in those channels on the outside.
Do you think that there are any players in particular that stand out on the team other than, of course, the World Cup veteran?
Yeah, Courtney DK is obviously really good and always producing for the team, but they have a pair of freshmen, Haley Woodard and Marlo Zolar, who are doing really good, who've created chances and even scored goals. So I think those are players you have to watch out for.
Awesome. So it sounds like we have some really great talent this year.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And how do you think the girls will pan out in the conference this year?
It's always hard to tell. Last year they went into the Big 12 championship tournament and lost in the first round. So I think if they can get their team dynamic together, they can end up in the championship like they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, hopefully it turns out to be that way. Well, thank you so much for coming and interviewing. Yep. This fall, the Cowgirls say they have an advantage unlike any other team. They have a player who has experience with some of the best athletes in their sport and has played on the biggest stages. We asked Zach Baden to catch up with Courtney DK to ask how she takes this experience onto the collegiate pitch.
Speed, power, adaptability. Common adjectives describing OSU women's soccer forward Courtney DK. They enticed coach Colin Carmichael to recruit her to OSU from Edmond North High School, twice prompted the Big 12 to name her Offensive Player of the Week as a freshman, and now they're bringing the attention of the Nigerian national team and the world.
They had seen my video on YouTube, and they hadn't responded to it for a while, but I randomly got an email with an invitation to team camp, and everything started from there.
That call-up was for the Under-20 World Cup after her freshman year. Choosing to represent the country of her parents' birth, Nigeria, over hers. She's made the most of her chance, scoring twice, including the fastest goal in the tournament's history, 18 seconds in during a 2-1 win over South Korea. This summer she was called again, but instead for the senior national team, making DK the first man or woman born in Oklahoma to play in a World Cup.
It's a huge adjustment, definitely, because the players are the best in the world, some of the fastest, the strongest, most technical players, but at the end of the day, it's also soccer.
The opposition wasn't the only challenge. Canada 2015 was the first major FIFA tournament to be played entirely on artificial turf. DK says coping with the change proved equally as difficult.
It was definitely an issue in the beginning, because you don't want to go into tackles as much. You don't want to play as aggressive, take as many risks because of the injuries. It's so easy to get injured, but at one point we all just decided we had to deal with it, and we just forgot about it and tried to focus on the game.
DK and her teammates were the only ones unhappy with the surface. Before the tournament, more than 40 players, including U.S. national team stars, sued FIFA in a discrimination lawsuit, but withdrew it before the tournament.
So what's the big deal with turf? Well, if I take a tomato and rub it on OSU's field, Bermuda Hybrid Tifway 419, it's good enough to eat. But if I rub it on turf, it turns to salsa faster than you can find a corrupt FIFA official.
Need more proof? U.S. forward Sydney Leroux posted this picture to Twitter showcasing how the fields had turned her lakes to tomatoes. Despite the tough conditions, Carmichael says his player and the whole team will benefit from the experience.
So I think it's a win-win. We'll take what Courtney's benefited from them and hopefully, incorporate that into what we do and make us a better attacking team.
You don't have as much time to think at that level, so it's definitely something I had to adapt to, and it's something that's helped me here grow as a better player, and hopefully I'll play a lot quicker, and hopefully that'll help our team do better this season.
DK played in 2 matches for the Super Falcons this summer, and though Nigeria didn't make it out of a tough group that included both Sweden and eventual champions United States, there's plenty of hope for the future, with 19 of the 23 squad members under the age of 25. For the Poke Report, I'm Zach Baden.
Nigeria is currently competing in the All-Africa Games, but DK decided to stay with the OSU Cowgirls for the beginning of the season.
Looking forward to seeing DK on the world stage for years to come. Coming up, when we come back to the Poke Report, we'll take a look at the football team's eventful trip to Central Michigan and check in on other Big 12 action.
That's right, and then we'll tell you what to watch when Boone Pickens Stadium opens its gates for the 2015 season.
And we'll introduce you to one of the new faces of Countdown to Kickoff. This is the Poke Report on O State TV.
We'll be right back.
We're back outside the Sherman Smith Training Center here in Stillwater. I'm Curtis Quillen alongside Amelia Henderson. Before looking at today's matchup, let's check out what Mike Gundy's Cowboys have been up to.
Not often can a team recover after 2 losing streaks with just 1 kick. Oklahoma State saw its ups and downs in 2014. After losing a tight game against defending national champion Florida State to open 2014, quarterback J.W. Walsh missed the rest of the season after having surgery on his lower leg. Enter Dax Garman. The redshirt junior started off well, completing 16 of 26 passes for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns against Missouri State. During the Cowboys' 5-game win streak, he averaged more than 270 yards and 2 touchdowns per game. After losing 4 straight games, Gundy handed the reins to Mason Rudolph. The true freshman started the final 3 games of the season: a loss at Baylor, a Bedlam win to make the Cowboys Bowl eligible, and a win over Washington in the Cactus Bowl. The Cowboys' inexperience on the offensive line showed when they gave up 40 sacks for a loss of 235 yards, 15th worst in FBS, according to CFBstats.com. The potential of last year's young team was seen after 1 repunt, which turned the Poke season around.
Left side, Hill to the 20, 25, 30. Hill down the left sideline, 40, and Hill's on the loose. There goes the cheetah! Tyreek Hill, 10-5, pistols firing, touchdown Oklahoma State!
And then this Ben Grogan kick won Bedlam for the 2nd time under Gundy and sent the Cowboys bowling. Rudolph may have changed numbers but remains in his role as QB1. The Cowboys kicked off the 2015 season with a 24-13 victory over Central Michigan. Grogan may have been a hero last season, however he has struggled so far, making 1 of 3 field goals against Central Michigan. The Cowboys' special teams and defensive line look to improve in the next game against Central Arkansas. For the Poke Report, I'm Amelia Henderson.
As we prepare for countdown to kick off in the Cowboys' home opener against the Central Arkansas Bears, we'll take a look at the upcoming game. Central Arkansas is in the Southland Conference in the FCS and finished their 2014 season 6-6 overall and 5-3 in conference play to finish in a three-way tie for third place. It's the two teams' first meeting, so it's really hard to say what exactly is going to happen.
If we look strictly at the point spread between the two teams' previous games, Cowboy fans could go into this afternoon's game optimistic. Last week, Central Arkansas took on Samford and lost 45-16, while Oklahoma State was victorious over Central Michigan.
Mason Rudolph passed for 266 yards and a 68% completion rate.
However, Central Arkansas's 6'3", 210-pound quarterback, Taylor Reed, threw for 312 yards, leaving Reed with a 68% average for completion as well.
Not only Reed, but the entire Bears offense can be explosive.
And they've done very well on offense. When you look at the points they accumulated, the number of plays they had, all while being in a game when the other team was doing the same thing, that's not easy to do. And they have a good scheme, and they know what they're doing. Their quarterback is he's active enough to move around and make some plays, and unbalanced in motions and different things they do. They have a good scheme.
Granted, the Pokes' front seven was successful in containing Central Michigan's Cooper Rush last week with 3 sacks. And just looking at the run game, the Cowboys have Central Arkansas beat.
And Jared Stafford has more on why the defensive line looks as if they're just getting started.
The Oklahoma State defensive line has potential to be one of the best in the Big 12 this season. At the forefront of the D-line are 2 of the best defensive ends in the country. Senior Jimmy Bean, who ranked 3rd among Cowboy defensive linemen in total tackles and tackles for loss last season, plays opposite of junior Emmanuel Ogba, who was the 2014 Defensive Lineman of the Year. The Cowboys' defense has put an emphasis on controlling the line of scrimmage this season. Defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer says credit for stopping the run should be shared amongst the whole defense and not solely on the player who made the tackle.
A defensive lineman might do his job and get the ball spilt to a linebacker who makes a tackle. Everybody sees a linebacker make a tackle. It's because that other guy did his job.
Now, it's no secret that the Cowboys' defensive line is a force to be reckoned with. From the time the ball is snapped, opposing quarterbacks have about 3 to 4 seconds to get rid of the ball. While the ends of the line seem pretty secure, the defensive tackle position requires big shoes to be filled with the departure of James Castleman and Ofa Hautau. The Cowboys' defense disrupted the backfield early and often in OSU's first win of the season at Central Michigan, recording 8 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. Freshman Vincent Taylor shined in the win over the Chippewas, recording 5 tackles, 2 for loss, and a sack. Emmanuel Ogba says he's confident in the linemen that he plays with and believes they're up for the challenge.
Because we had a avoiding D tackle spot with James Castleman and Ofa leaving, so we had Vincent Taylor and Monte Amati. They both stepped up. And the freshman Darian Daniels actually did his thing until he got him a sack on the first game, so that's pretty good for us.
It's clear there's still some questions to be answered throughout the Cowboys' defensive line, but it certainly helps when arguably the best defensive player in the country doesn't seem so worried. For the Poke Report, I'm Jared Stafford.
Pressure off the edge, just a 3-man rush that still gets to Cooper Rush.
The D-line for the OSU Cowboys has only 6 upperclassmen, so there's plenty of room for the young ones to step up on the line.
And now a look at Big 12 football. During week 1, only Texas and Kansas lost. KU lost at home to South Dakota State 41-38, and Texas lost on the road at Notre Dame 38-3. Both Kansas and Texas hold the bottom slot of the Big 12 standings after a week. West Virginia put up the largest point spread last weekend, racking up 44 points against a scoreless Georgia Southern. This week, the Mountaineers will host Liberty. TCU traveled to Minnesota to battle the Golden Gophers, winning 23-17, and they host Stephen F. Austin this week. Kansas State faced South Dakota at home and beat the Coyotes 34-0. K-State is in San Antonio to play UTSA this week before the Roadrunners come to Stillwater on September 19th. Baylor made the short trip to Dallas to play SMU, winning 56-21, and this week the Bears host Lamar. Iowa State kept it local, beating Northern Iowa 31-7 last week, and they look to face Iowa Saturday afternoon. Texas Tech took on the Sam Houston State Bearcats, winning 59-45, and they play the University of Texas El Paso this week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
When asked last year to describe himself in one word, James Castleman said big. But former Oklahoma State defensive tackle is just that. Castleman sits at 6'2" and weighs around 300 pounds. But Castleman didn't always have his sights set on OSU. The former Cowboy changed his mind just a mere 4 days before his signing day. Originally, Castleman was planning on signing with Texas Tech. But after the defensive coordinator was replaced, Castleman reconsidered his option. A last-minute visit to Stillwater quickly prompted Castleman to switch from guns up to pistols firing.
Well, it's a lot like home, actually. Like, I like the whole open space, the country side and everything about it. And it kind of hurt me whenever I told him to begin with that I wasn't going to commit. But I felt so much better whenever I recommitted to OSU and decommitted from Tech.
During his time at OSU, Castleman was a 3-year starter. He finished his senior year with 45 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 3 blocked kicks. Ironically, Castleman's favorite football moment was his interception against none other than the Raiders. Although, this was said in an interview before the 2014 Ticket City Cactus Bowl. If you ask the former Cowboy now, he might tell you something different. Castleman also finished his season with a touchdown against Washington in the final minutes of the game. The play, also referred to as Jackie, involved freshman quarterback Mason Rudolph passing to Castleman. Although Castleman was not drafted, the Green Bay Packers signed him as an undrafted free agent. For the Poke Report, I'm Elizabeth Bauer.
Just a reminder that coming up next is Countdown to Kickoff.
But before we go, here are our picks of the week.
So, Oklahoma State, Central Arkansas here in Stillwater, I think it's pretty easy. I'm taking the Pokes.
Yeah, I'd have to say with the Cowboys as well.
Another game, big game in the Big 12 this week. Oklahoma travels to Knoxville. Who do you have, Tennessee or Oklahoma?
You know, because I'm a Pokes fan, I'd have to go with Tennessee.
I'm going with Tennessee just because I think that last year they had a really good shot to win it, and they return a lot of people. I think Tennessee takes that one at home. Arguably the national game of the week, Michigan State hosts Oregon. Ducks, Spartans, take your pick.
Ooh, I'm going to have to go with Oregon, I think. I don't know a whole lot about them, but they seem like a fair team.
I just don't know that they returned enough from last year's national runner-up team. I'm taking Sparty and East Lansing.
Fair enough.
That'll do it for us. Thanks for watching the Poke Report. I'm Curtis Quillen.
And I'm Amelia Henderson, and as always, go Pokes.